Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 111 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. It is your main man, T-Square, Tristan Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, we've got to talk Green Bay Packers. They had their first preseason game. How did they fare? What did I see? The likes, the meh, the dislike. We'll discuss. Quick note about the Milwaukee Bucks and the upcoming NBA schedule. The Milwaukee Brewers. Trying not to get too hype on them right now because this is just a teaser, but I ain't got a whole lot of good to say about them, but we'll discuss anyway. And then the tall sweep. We'll talk about a big change to the NBA schedule and the WNBA, a player stepping away, and the playoffs are about to jump off. But you know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state, and let's get to those Green Bay Packers who had their first preseason game last Friday out in Santa Clara. San Francisco 49ers, a rival, but you know, this is only preseason, so you put aside a lot of that beef, so to speak. Packers fall 28-21 to those Niners. Pretty exciting game for what it was. It was a preseason game, and you're talking 33 players for the Green Bay Packers did not dress. That included many of the offensive starters, Aaron Rodgers included, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, guys of that nature. A lot of guys did not dress. A lot of guys were still on PUP. And you talk about the Packers getting a lot of players back off of PUP. You talk about Christian Watson finally coming off of PUP, getting his first reps with Aaron Rodgers, the rookie wide receiver. Talk about Elton Jenkins finally getting off of PUP. You'd love to see that. So they're beginning to get some guys back. And it's nothing but positive movement in terms of them being available and possibly being able to be there for week one. But we're still within preseason. We're talking about game one. It was a mixed bag, as you come to expect, with many of the offensive starters being out. You're really trying to see what you have as far as undrafted guys, undrafted free agent guys coming in, and your rookies that you've drafted, and other guys who have been right on the cusp of possibly making the roster, but a move here or there, or they just didn't show enough and they just haven't been able to make the main roster. Maybe they get stashed on practice squad. You're trying to see what you have. You're trying to shape and mold this team, which is exactly what preseason is for. So you got to get those guys a lot of reps, especially with the shortened preseason. It's no longer 4 games. Some people have forgotten. It's 3 games because the Players Association decided to give in and give up that 17th game in the regular season. So in turn, 1 less preseason game. So you have to really accelerate things, which means you have to give those guys a lot more game time to see what kind of a team you can build with these guys. What kind of depth will you be able to have with these guys? Who did I like? What performances did I like from Friday's first preseason game? Obviously, the big talk is going to be about Romeo Doubs, the rookie wide receiver, making a splash all throughout training camp, continues to do so. Now that Christian Watson is back, it's going to be interesting to see how they really split those reps if he does, in fact, go to game time. Now, they're having joint practices. Step away for preseason for a second. They're having joint practices with the New Orleans Saints right now. And the Packers are being cautious. They're holding out Watson and Jenkins and others who have just come off of PUP. They want to be cautious with them. They want to bring them along slowly. So if they're doing that with joint practices, who knows how much game time Watson is really going to get, or those other guys who just came off of PUP are going to get. So it'll be interesting to see how that is moving forward, because at some point, you got to see what you have in Watson on game day. And that can't exactly come in the regular season. Again, you don't want to press them. You don't want to speed them up. But you kind of have to see what you have. But back to the preseason game against the Niners. Romeo Doubs, nice night, 3 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. He had some great moments. Those were a part of it, especially that long touchdown from Jordan Love. believe it was 33 yards. But he did have a rookie moment where you had Jordan Love rolling left. And, for a right-handed quarterback, rolling left is really difficult. Jordan Love puts a pass right in his pocket, right in the breadbasket, and Dobbs drops it. You have got to, and nobody was around him really. It was just him and the football. Jordan Love made a perfect throw, especially for a right-handed quarterback rolling left, and he just dropped it. It's a rookie moment. Now, on the Twitter sphere, if you want to follow me, go ahead and do that at the 20double. Saw a lot of Packers fans sitting here complaining about Dobbs dropping that and how he has dropped some things in training camp and whatever, what have you. But I point to other receivers who have been great for the Packers that also dealt with drops, especially in their rookie year. Jordy Nelson had some big drops in the Super Bowl. He still ended up going 9 for 143 and a touchdown. But that's a guy who, as short-handed as he is, he dealt with some drops at times. Davante Adams, widely regarded as the best wide receiver in all of the NFL. He was a guy that dealt with drops. James Jones, a guy who I have personally called Mr. Stonehands, where sometimes you could just walk straight up to him and handle the ball, he'll still drop it. That's how he was at times. But you're talking about somebody who led the NFL in touchdown receptions one year. Ended up being a pretty good receiver for the Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl champion. There have been a lot of guys over the years who have dealt with drops. Dobbs is a rookie. He's going to have to improve in that area. And I'm not comparing him to, the Davante Adams, the James Jones, the Jordy Nelsons of the world. But I'm just pointing out the fact that they all dealt with drops as well. And they all were able to overcome that. Dobbs can be the same thing. So I'm not really worried about it yet. It's something you want to keep an eye on to make sure it isn't habitual because, again, you don't want another situation like MVS. MVS has all the talent in the world, but he just drops the easy ones. But Dobbs had a nice night. Again, you continue to be excited about the young man. You're really excited about Watson coming off a pup, but you'll be more excited once they start ramping him up. Getting more 11 on 11 action, possibly seeing some game action a little bit, a few snaps, perhaps before the regular season. We don't know. But he had a nice night. Another guy that had a nice night, another receiver, Amari Rodgers. Amari Rodgers had a nice night, not just in the receiving game, but in the return game. Now we know all about Packers special teams. I said this early on in the season last year that the Packers special teams were going to cost them a playoff game and possibly a championship. And what happened? Block punt in the playoff game against San Francisco. You end up losing that ball game. The defense didn't even give up a touchdown. Special teams blew it. Now, you got Rich Bisaccia in there. You're retooling the special teams as you need to. And you're looking for a really good bounce back season from Amari Rodgers because, he really didn't show much last season. Wasn't really able to. Had a nice about 50-yard return, kick return, showed good speed, got around the corner, made some people miss. It's good to see that. I hope that becomes more consistent. in the receiving game, took the pass from Jordan Love, dove for the pylon, an electrifying dive for the pylon for the touchdown. 22-yarder. If he could be that sort of threat, both in the return game and give you some juice in that slot, because, I mean, right now you're thinking Randall Cobb's more than likely going to be there. Randall Cobb experienced in that spot. When he's healthy, he's still a factor. You're talking he's in his 12th season. Played a lot of football. Has been banged up quite a bit. You need somebody electrifying in that spot. And will Amari Rodgers be that guy? Will he end up taking more snaps from Randall Cobb? That's another story to keep your eye on as we move forward. So what was just meh to me in that game? What was like, came to be expected. It's preseason. Some of it wasn't his fault. Some of it was. It was Jordan Love. It was Jordan Love. I mean, he wasn't so terrible. I mean, 13 to 24, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. But he also had 3 picks. Now, his third pick, 100% his fault. You're trying to throw it into coverage. They bait you into it. The DB undercuts the route, plucks the ball right out of the air. It was a really bad throw. But the 2 prior interceptions, receivers not in the right spot, not running the right route. And on top of that, which is where it's kind of Love's fault, kind of not. Receivers were in the wrong spot, but at the same time, he threw the ball high and was just missing high. And when you miss high, there's a chance that it's going to be a tip ball and it's going to be a pick. And that's exactly what happened. Tip ball and picked. I tweeted out, hey, Jordan Love's missing high. He's missing high. This is gonna that ends up being turnovers more times than not in the NFL when you miss that high. And he did that. He missed. He missed really high, and paid the price for it. But again, it's preseason. You don't want to read too much into it. He did some good things. He did some meh things. He did some not so good things. It's par for the course for preseason. It's par for the course for a guy who doesn't see that much game action. But you could see that he's learning. You could see that the intangibles are there. The skill set is there. He needs more seasoning, as do these receivers. Again, 33 guys did not dress for this game, so you're not exactly going out there with all your starters. You got some guys who are probably going to make this team, and a lot of guys who are not going to make this team. That's just the nature of the beast. So what did I not like in preseason game 1 for the Packers? Gabe Burkage. Former kicker, because he's been cut, he missed his only field goal attempt. Now, he made his 3 extra points, but he missed a 32-yarder wide left. Did not like that at all. Now, you talk about, well, Mason Crosby will be there, so on and so forth. But this is a guy that's competition. And for me, for my money, Mason Crosby isn't exactly a given. Not only to make this team, but to make kicks. So, we've seen him struggle. It's an adventure. Needs that competition, needs somebody to be there to push him, make him better. Or you may be possibly looking for somebody to completely replace him. We don't know. But it was a sure sign, even in coverage for special teams, that they still need work. it's very apparent they still need work. Very apparent. So overall, a mixed bag as I expected. It's game one. Okay, you got another game coming up on Friday. Preseason. Another opportunity to get better. Another opportunity to get closer to the roster. Making this team or showing enough to possibly be stashed on practice squad. Remember, all is not lost. But you got to start tightening up some of these things. Every single day we get closer to the regular season. I know it's still preseason. You're still learning. You're still growing. But you're going to have to start tightening some of this stuff up. You're going to have to. Again, you got another game this Friday. You're at Lambeau. Preseason game number 2. Lambeau's going to be rocking like it's a regular season game. It always is. Against the very team that you're having joint practices against right now, the New Orleans Saints. Hopefully this team takes a big step forward in terms of the growth and putting together the best possible team you can put together. Continuing here on State of the State, quick note on the Milwaukee Bucks. Number one, I wasn't going to address this on the show. Sidebar. I wasn't going to address this on this program because it is just dumb. But apparently Giannis came out in an interview and somebody asked him a question and he's talking about playing in Chicago. He's like, oh yeah, you never know, but I wouldn't mind playing in Chicago and yada, 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 yakety schmackety. And everybody just took it and ran with it. Giannis is going to Chicago. Giannis has interest in Chicago. Eyeball emoji. It's like, y'all realize he's under contract for, I believe 3 more years? Y'all realize he's going to be still in his prime by the time his next contract comes up? Hopefully have a couple more rings at that point as well. Y'all understand that Milwaukee's going to throw everything they possibly can at him to make sure that he is happy and make sure that he wants to stay in Milwaukee? Why are we even talking about this? Why are we even doing this again? Stop getting your hopes up. He's not going anywhere. It would take a massive falling out for him to want to go anywhere else. So please stop with the photoshops of him in Bulls uniform. Just stop this foolishness. Stop it. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Let's get to the quick note. The Bucks will play on Christmas Day again. They will play their rival. And you can't even call them a rival, but after the way they were ousted in 7 games in the playoffs against these guys, you kind of feel a certain type of way about it. They'll play the Boston Celtics, Eastern Conference champions. Yuck. But that should be a really good game. Should be a really good game on Christmas Day. They'll have to go to Boston, unfortunately. They're not getting that game at Fiserv. That's okay. That's all right. Hopefully they come out with Christmas Day win. But it's exciting. They have another Christmas Day game. Not excited that the Knicks and the Lakers are on Christmas Day, but those are the 2 biggest markets apparently, quote unquote. So you got to have them included on the biggest day from the NBA, which is Christmas Day. We'll have another note about the NBA schedule later on in the Toss Sweep. But let's continue here on State of the State, here on Toss, and get to the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, I said in the opening, I said in the rundown, that at that point, I was not trying to get hype on these dudes. I said that I didn't have a whole lot of good to say about these guys, and I don't. I do not. Because what did I say the last time I spoke with you here on Toss? I spoke about how Mark Antanasio has become the new Herb Cole, where it's just perfectly fine chasing the 8. And in baseball's case, it's chasing the 6. Because of the wild card. He's perfectly fine with winning division championships. He's perfectly fine with just getting to the playoffs and not winning championships. And he can come out and say whatever he wants. But the actions of his brain trust, his GM, his president of baseball operations, says differently. Their unwillingness to spend says differently. This isn't stuff that we're plucking out of thin air. This is tangible proof on the field. Now, one thing that I didn't touch on, that I wanted to touch on last time we spoke, was how the trade of Josh Hader just really shocked the entire locker room and shook them up. A sizable move like that about a guy who was truly beloved in that locker room and truly beloved in the community. Now, he has some racist tweets that I always look at him with a side eye. Was never quite buddy, but his work on the field was undeniable. But, I'm looking at you. You don't wish any ill will, but hey. But the team embraced him. The locker room embraced him. And they love what he did on that field. They love the vibe that he brought to the locker room. So it shocked them. It shook up that entire locker room. And possibly in some, I don't know if you could even call it a small way, it really fractured the locker room. And it's not fractured to the point where everybody's beefing with each other. It's nothing like that. It's fractured where, as far as the chemistry, the camaraderie, the feeling that, hey, our front office is doing everything they possibly can to help us win ball games and to get us not just to the playoffs, but to the World Series and a World Series championship. But dealing a guy like that, it doesn't really send world championship vibes throughout the locker room and throughout the community. That trade has sent the Brewers into some sort of a tailspin. Now, I know they got the 2-game sweep against the Rays, hooray, but they haven't really been doing a whole lot of winning. Let's run down the numbers. They're 61-53 currently. They are 2 games back of the St. Louis Cardinals in the NL Central. Okay, 2 games back. And that's coming into tonight's action as we record this program on a Tuesday. Coming into tonight's action over the last 13 games, they are 4-9. 4-9 in their last 13 games. Coming into tonight's action, they are 2 games back in the wild card. So not only are you 2 games back in your division, you're 2 games back of that final wild card spot that I believe the San Diego Padres currently have, who are in a tailspin of their own, the very team that they did the trade with. And you think the Brewers are having a bad time. And look at the Padres. You're talking that team sunk hundreds of millions of dollars into what they're trying to build. They gave up tons of prospects away to get guys in there. And now you're not going to have Fernando Tatis at all because he got suspended for 80 games for PED use, which is just absolutely foolish on his part. But the Padres are in a tailspin of their own. They're currently clinging on to that last wild card spot. And the only way currently the Brewers are going to make the playoffs, make postseason in the MLB, is by winning the division unless San Diego keeps sliding. You got to think at some point Machado and and Soto and all those other guys are going to get going, and those bats are going to get going. At some point, you would think that's going to happen. But for some reason, it just hasn't. Just hasn't happened. But you got to think that it will. Got a lot of guys out there that can actually hit, not just for power. But currently, the only way the Brewers are going to make the postseason is by winning the NL Central. I have no faith in that happening because this offense was not addressed. It almost feels like they're giving up. I can't even say that for the players. It feels like the front office is pretty much playing for the future. When you literally have an opportunity to win a division, make the playoffs, and at that point, anything can happen. Now, with this offense, the way it's going, I don't think you're going to be able to do much. It's probably going to be a repeat of last season. All the pitching in the world. You got Burns, you got Woodruff, you got Peralta. You had Hader, you don't have him anymore. You got a good arm in Bush. High leverage guy. You send Rogers out there, he got rocked. That guy's supposed to be your closer. You got Devin Williams in there. He had a tough time after the Hader trade, but since then he's been back to his airbender self. But it really feels like the front office has given up and is just trying to play for the future. When you have a winning ball club, you were in first place for much of the season. You let the Cardinals run you down. You know the Cardinals are going to make a run. Death, Texas, Cardinals get hot. That's what it is. It feels like a lesson, a masterclass in futility. Listen to these numbers from last night's game. They're facing the Dodgers in the series. They lost 4-0 Monday night. Putrid. They had no hits after the fourth inning. None. Not a single hit. Nothing. After the fourth inning. They were 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position, including 6 strikeouts. 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position with 6 strikeouts. This feast or famine garbage for an offense does not work. It doesn't work. You have to get some guys that can get the ball in play, that can actually hit. Not just looking at the analytics and say, oh, well, when he connects, he puts the ball at the ballpark. Yeah, but he's hovering above or he's below the Mendoza line. That kind of thing matters when you got runners in scoring position. You got guys who know hitting situations and can put the ball where they need to be productive. Instead, you got a lot of free swingers up there who swing at just about anything to try and mash it out the park. That's the kind of offense that you have assembled for the Brewers. That's the collection of guys that you have in uniform. And you wonder why it's a roller coaster offense, why it's inconsistent, why it's just absolutely atrocious to watch. And somehow, by some way, and we all know what that somehow, some way is, it is definitely the pitching and some of the defense. They were in first place for most of the season. They're in second place and only 2 games back. Again, that's entering tonight's action. I got to tell you, just watching it, just watching them and hearing them speak after games, it really feels like they feel the front office has given up on them. And I don't see another hot streak like they had last season coming at all. Guys were hitting a lot better last season than they were this season. If people forget, the Brewers got scorching hot down the stretch. Won the division by plenty. It's a good ball club last year. Potential to be a good ball club this year. Time's running out, but that offense, that the way it's currently constructed, that offense is going to hold them back again. And it may very well hold them back from getting into the playoffs this season altogether. We're going to continue to keep an eye on it as much as we can stomach. But I got to tell you, it feels like they're giving up. Feels like they've given up. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. Did y'all know that I'm on Fanbase now? Yes, I am. On the Fanbase app, go and find me at T-Squared. That's at TSQUARED. Check out the content there. And of course, TalkStationMedia.com. The NBA has made a huge scheduling change for November, early November. It is election day in early November. And the NBA has decided that, hey, there are certain issues that are bigger than the game. And we need to help those issues come to light. We need to help people go out and be active within the process. As first reported by NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster, the NBA will hold no games on Election Day. They will hold no games on Election Day. Instead, they will opt to have all 30 teams play that Monday. So the night before Election Day on Tuesday. So they're going to opt to have them play all 30 teams playing on Monday night as opposed to playing on Tuesday night, which is election night. And the games that they will play on Monday night will be a part of what they call a civil engagement night, which is going to encourage everyone to go out and vote, everyone who is eligible to go out and vote. The NBA helped to make arenas big voting centers in the last election. So kudos to them for continuing this important work, for helping this process. I, too, encourage everybody to go out and vote. It is vitally important. We see what's going on in this country. It is scary. So I encourage all of you to go out and vote. Kudos to the NBA for putting an important civic duty high on the priority list, exactly where it belongs, and helping to bring about awareness and educate on how you can vote and to get out and vote and get others to go out with you and vote. It is vitally important. So kudos to the NBA on that. In WNBA news, Liz Cambage. Now, man, y'all been keeping up with her, and she, she's quite unspoken. You know, she's a woman. She's fearless in the way in which she speaks. There's plenty of stuff that she says that is on point, absolutely true. And then there's some things that I just can't jive with, that I just can't get with, especially what she did to the Nigerian Olympic team. Calling those players what she called them. I could never get down with that. This season, She ended up in a contract divorce with the LA Sparks, a team that when she was signed, basically claimed that, hey, this is where I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be here. It's been a dream to play in LA. I always wanted to be a Spark, and this, that, and the third. And you thought, okay, she's going to be happy. She's where she wants to be. This is going to be good for her. And then the whole thing, just a big fallout. She basically, it was reported that she basically quit. And, hours later, contract divorce between her and the Los Angeles Sparks. Cambage put out a statement on her Instagram saying, quote, "Playing for the Sparks was a dream come true, and I'm honored to have shared the court with such amazing ladies for as long as we did. I'm sorry to have left abruptly, and I wish it would have ended on a different note. I've decided to step away from the league for the time being, and I'm hopeful that the WNBA will do their part in creating safer environments and a stronger support system for their players. While I'll miss rocking the purple and gold, I'll be taking this time to focus on my healing and personal growth before providing clarification on past rumors. Thank you to all my supporters, family, and friends for all the love and light you continue to surround with me," end quote. That was Elizabeth Cambage on her Instagram, basically saying that she's stepping away from the WNBA. How long, she didn't say. It sounds like she would like a return to the WNBA, and by all accounts, her talent should, give her that opportunity. But at the same time, there's been issues in the places you've gone. There was issues in Las Vegas. Now there's issues with LA. There were issues in the Olympics with the Opals. And I already spoke about what she said to the other team. There's a common denominator in all of that. And it's her. Now, I know she's struggled with mental health and all that. I'm not saying that this is a part of why, these things continue to happen. And I'm not making fun of her for having, the mental health issues. I'm hoping that she's seeking the proper help and getting the proper help that she needs, and that everything is well in that regard, and that everything is well in that regard. I don't want anybody to think that I'm bashing her and I'm tearing her down, but it's like, follow the truth. Follow the path. There's nuclear heat on her right now. All the talent in the world, she could go out there and dominate and be one of the best centers in WNBA history. She really could. You talk about somebody who holds the record for most points in the game in the WNBA with 53. I mean, she can truly dominate. I mean, just this season, when she was healthy and she was with the Sparks and everything was in good terms, the Sparks were in the 6th seed, looking every bit of a playoff team. Like, yeah, they were a couple games under 500. But once you get down to the bottom of that bracket, and we'll talk about that in a minute, those teams are under 500. It's no different than the Eastern Conference in the NBA. Most of those teams were under 500. Once you get past about 5 or 6. But they went from in the playoffs. Then she quits. Then there's a divorce, contract divorce. And they fall all the way out of the playoffs. Their season is done. So it's not like she isn't a factor, but will those issues, all these places, all these things that have happened, will those overshadow the talent that she brings to the table? Will that talent be able to overcome the nuclear heat? I don't know. I've asked that question many times, and I don't know. Try to reach out to a couple of teams. Obviously, none of them had any comment on a player that's not currently in the league. So you wish the best for her. You hope that everything is all right. You don't want anything happening as a result of negativity. You never want that. But at the same time, you hope that she gets her house in order. You hope that she truly and listen, this woman she's a beautiful woman. She has a lot of opportunities outside of basketball. She's taken full advantage of those opportunities outside of basketball. She's going to have a big, long career outside of sports. She truly is. But if it is your desire to be back in the league, that has to be your focus. You have to dedicate that space, to dedicate that time when you're in season to the game. Not saying don't keep an eye on other things. Obviously, you want to keep your house in order. But have that dedication to your team, have that dedication to the game. And for me, and again, this is just an observer. I'm on the outside looking in. Doesn't quite feel like that again, she was good when she was on the court. She was healthy and everything was good. And whatever falling out happened, that ended in a contract divorce. But still can't get the full story on that. You just hope that she keeps that focus there. Gets better up here in the brain. Continues to stay well there. Because she's talented. It's not like she can't go and help a team become a championship contender. She brings that type of talent to the table. But you just hope the best for her. You hope that she stays well. But as it stands right now, I don't know if there's going to be another team that gives her an opportunity. I just don't see it right now. Speaking of WNBA, the WNBA playoffs begin on Wednesday. There's been some tweaks to the playoff format. It is no longer a one and done first round. A lot of people complained about it. I rather enjoyed it. It was a desperation. It was more of a chance for upsets. It definitely hit different. But I am obviously not mad at a best of 3 first round. Still gives you that opportunity for upsets. Still can have that air of desperation, especially with a team being down 1-0 on the brink of elimination after just one game. That could hit differently too. So no more one game first rounds. It's now best of 3. They also will not reseed as they go on in the playoffs. So no more reseeding. Just a straight seed. You are what you are. So let's get to those matchups and my predictions, as I told you all on social media that I would. 1 versus 8 matchup. And these are the traditional playoff brackets. So it's 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. So 1 versus 8. The Las Vegas Aces clinched that 1 seed versus the 8-seeded Phoenix Mercury, who probably will not have Diana Taurasi. They did just enough to squeak into the playoffs. Actually, they didn't really do anything by the fact that Minnesota lost their final game. And shout out to Sylvia Fowles, who played her final game. They had a shot at the playoffs, just couldn't get the job done against the Connecticut Sun, who were still trying to play for a number 1 seed themselves. They're looking really good. We'll get to them in a minute. But hell of a career for her, 2-time champion, WNBA MVP, Finals MVP. You name it, she's done it. Hell of a career. Just congratulations, Mama Sil. I'm going to miss seeing her play. One of the greatest centers in WNBA history, right up there with Lauren Jackson. Just a phenomenal career. I'm going to miss seeing her play. But Phoenix gets the nod. They get into the playoffs. And I got Las Vegas in this one. It is not going to be like last season's matchup where Jackie Young decided to poke the GOAT, Diana Taurasi, and Taurasi went off and sent them packing. Not going to be that type of a matchup. They're really missing Brittany Griner. Again, you prayers up for her. You hope she makes it through this ordeal. Hope the government does what they need to do to get her home. She's been over there far too long. Get her home. But they are seriously missing her and what she brings to the table. She's a superstar in this league. I know defensively they've been a little bit better, but the Aces just have a balanced offense. They have a lot of players that can go off. You're talking just a few games ago, they had 4 players who scored 20-plus points. You're talking A'ja Wilson, who I think is going to be the WNBA MVP for a second time. Kelsey Plum, who should be getting MVP consideration. Chelsea Gray, who is the most clutch guard probably in all of the WNBA. And Jackie Young, who has been shooting lights out from 3 this season. All had 20-plus points in the game just a few games ago. So you got a lot of players that can score. Don't hit on Kia Stokes. Don't sleep on her, what she brings as far as the rebounding and her length defensively. A'ja Wilson also, what she brings to the table scoring-wise. She's shooting 3 a lot better as well. She's blocking shots. She's getting out in the passing lanes, getting steals. Becky Hammond has them. Reminded me of the Spurs with all the ball movement, all the cuts to the basket, playing some really good basketball. My worry with them is that I've seen them blow big leads. So they're going to have to tighten that up. I know it's a 1 versus 8 matchup, but you can still get shocked in the best of 3 series. But I am picking Las Vegas. I am picking Las Vegas in this matchup. I like the matchup again. Phoenix will not have Diana Taurasi. Or it's looking like they won't have her. But even if they did, they were really missing Brittany Griner. She was pivotal in that series against them in the last playoffs. So without her, I don't really think they stand a chance. Las Vegas beats Phoenix. The 4-5 matchup on that side of the bracket. Seattle and Washington, probably the most intriguing matchup of the first round for me. This is a true coin flip. You get to see 2 of the very best in the league go at it. You talk about Breanna Stewart, Elena Del Don. Talk about 2 former WNBA champions. You talk about 2 former WNBA MVPs. Stewie probably could get some votes for that. I believe she was the league's leading scorer this season. It's a true coin flip. It's going to come down to what team, because both teams can score, but it's going to come down to what team is going to be able to get more stops defensively. And you gotta remember, Sue Bird is playing her last season, and she's going to want to go out on top. So there's going to be a little bit of extra fire within her to get that job done too. Drew Lloyd seems to be in a groove. She had 38 points and 8 threes against the Aces in the final game of the regular season. Absolute shootout with she and Chelsea Gray. Chelsea Gray put up 33 in that game. I got Seattle squeaking through this one. That series might end up going the full 3 games. It is such a coin flip. It is such a coin flip. I can't call it. I'll be honest. I can't call it. But I'm going to roll with Seattle on that one. I think they will have the edge. The 2 versus 7 matchup on the other side of the bracket. You got the defending champion Chicago Sky against the team that squeaked into the playoffs. Victory on the last day of the season, the New York Liberty. I'm going to go Chicago on this one. You know, the Liberty don't defend enough. Yes, you got Sabrina Ionescu, and she can go and get a triple-double, and yeah, you know, that's great. But Chicago's got defense. James Wade has those ladies playing some really sound defense again. Candace Parker, been there, done that. Clea Copper, finals MVP from last season. Vander Quiggs, Mieseman. I mean, the list goes on and on. They have a really good squad. They're defending champions for a reason. They're even better this season than they were last season. I'm going Chicago with this one. I'm going with the defending champs. And then the final matchup on that side of the bracket, you got the 3-seeded Connecticut Sun versus the 6-seeded Dallas Wings, who more than likely will be without Arike Ogunbowale. You hate to see that. But they really played some good basketball in the last 7 games, 5-2 down the stretch. Seemed like they didn't skip a beat without Ogunbowale. But come on, Connecticut. Jonquel Jones, last season's MVP. Alyssa Thomas, Natisha Heidemann, Marquette's own. DeWanna Bonner. And those ladies defend. They could score. But those ladies also defend. Plus, they've been through those playoff battles. They've been through those wars. They know what to expect. So I'm going with Connecticut on that one. I don't think that one will be particularly close. I know it's a 3-6, but that might end up being a sweep, 2-0. You heard it here first. So, first round victors. I've got I got Connecticut beating Dallas. I've got Chicago beating the New York Liberty. I've got the Seattle Storm over the Washington Mystics, but again, that one is a toss-up. It could go either way. Wouldn't be surprised if Washington came on top of that series. That's probably the best series of the first round for me. And then the Las Vegas Aces, the 1-seeded Las Vegas Aces, defeat the 8th-seeded Phoenix Mercury, who will possibly be without Diana Taurasi, or already without Brittany Griner, unfortunately. But Las Vegas has just been on another level. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. This was episode 111 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. You know where to find me on social media at the20double on Instagram and Twitter. That's at the number 2, the number 0 in the word double. Follow me. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Touch on a lot of things there that we don't get a chance to here on this show. That's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Fan base. The app, download it. Follow me at T-Squared, TSQUARED. And of course, TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports is what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. It's T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, so long from Toss.